I made a lot of mistakes when studying during my first year of university. In this video, I'm going to be taking you through all those mistakes on what to not do when you are studying. These were my chemistry notes from first year. Yeah. So there's around 130 pages of notes like this. Very detailed, they look nice, I got a lot of compliments on them, but while they were a lovely resource while I was studying because they had all sorts of practice questions and examples with explanations, they were great for when I was studying because I could look back and everything was there in so much detail. I had information about any given topic, lots of analogies. The amount of time it takes you to make your own personal textbook like this is ridiculous and it's not worth it. Spending too much time on your notes is one of the biggest mistakes I made in first year, and I think one of the biggest mistakes people make in general. First of all, you waste a lot of time that you could have spent internalizing concepts. When you're in the exam, you don't have your notes with you, you only have your brain. So it's important to make sure the knowledge is in your brain instead of on paper. It's more important to understand things than to have them written out. Now, you do need to use these two things in conjunction, but the idea here is that you're giving more importance to internalizing and understanding ideas rather than having the most detailed notes. The next thing is that when I was making excessive notes, I would tend to brush over concepts I didn't completely understand because I would just write them down and say I'll get back to it. This is something I stopped doing, and I felt my performance improve since I stopped doing that, because often you're not going to have time at the end to come back to that concept, and a lot of times concepts build upon other concepts. By brushing over one idea and just skipping it and saying I'll get back to that later, it can make it hard to understand the next few topics you're learning. You should be skipping over concepts you're stuck on and move on from them, because that can also be wasteful. But the main idea here is, instead of just making a note and just forgetting about it and saying I've written it down so it's there, I've written it down so it's okay, don't justify that. Just because you've written something down doesn't mean you're okay with it. This saves you so much time in the long run, because when you come back to prepare for the exam, you don't have a crazy list of things that you need to learn for the first time. You're able to kind of like just move on and review concepts because you've already taken the time to understand them when you were first learning them. Next, there are two ways you can really track your studying. One way is by the amount of hours, and the other way is by the amount of tasks. One of my roommates, she only studies based on what she's done. So she'll say, tonight I need to finish this and this and this, and that's it. It doesn't matter how long it'll take her, that's what she needs to do. For me, I work a different way because I prefer to track the amount of hours I do in a day. Which one you use is completely up to you, but I would highly recommend using some sort of way to track your studying, what you're getting done, because it's a good way to see improvement and see how your productivity can change over time. It's also a good way to hold yourself accountable. When I didn't track how many hours I was studying, there would be times where I would barely study, but I wouldn't really understand that I was wasting time or I was procrastinating a lot. But when I started tracking the hours, I realized it was a good way for me to kind of push myself. My sister always says this one thing, which is that as long as you put the hours in, you'll get the marks. As long as you put the hours in. And I think it's a really good idea. But another thing I've learned is that it's very important to study smart as well. I kind of took it too literally. As long as you put the hours in, you'll get the marks. And I would put the hours in and I would work excessively and waste time on small, tiny little concepts or making notes. Those hours weren't worth it. Honestly, now I can find that I can reduce the amount of hours, get more done, and understand more by taking less notes. But this idea that you put the hours in alleviated a lot of stress, because I'm a perfectionist. It takes me a long time to learn concepts. And so sometimes I can't finish everything that I put on my to-do list for the day. So instead of tracking by how much I get done, I track by the hours I've spent. I feel like I've done something, and I have done something. It kept me going a little bit better. If I track by tasks, I always underestimate how long it takes me to do things. So that didn't work for me because I can't finish a task in one night. Like, I need a couple days to perfect it. With the hours, I feel more in control. It allows me to be more lax throughout the day with scheduling my tasks. I don't need to say I need to finish this and this and this. I just set the amount of hours I need to do that day, and I do whatever I can do during that time. Another thing I learned is group studying is so vital if you do it right. I tried to do group studying quite a few times in first year and it did not work out. I had to leave every single time, and it really just depends on the people you're group studying with. They have to be somewhat on the same level as you, but also better than you so that you can learn from them. And also they have to be focused. You don't want people who are going completely off track. main idea is you need someone who you can learn from and who can learn from you. I could not find anyone like this in first year, but I joined a group on Discord, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit more. I joined a group on Discord and we study together, we do practice questions together, and it's really, really great. It's like a small group of people and it's amazing. All of first year I thought, oh, I'm not a group studier, I'm an independent studier, I can't do it. From joining this Discord and doing practice questions with people when I was ready to, oh my god, it made such a big difference. I learned so much from other people, and I learned from explaining concepts as well to other people. So it was really, really good. The tricky part is finding the right group of people to study with, but I think it's worthwhile because studying is normally a solo task, and a lot of the time you are going to be studying alone, but once in a while it's good to bounce ideas off of other people. Next thing is to join a forum for your program, your school, whatever. Join some sort of forum. This can be Discord or I don't know, Slack, whatever. I didn't join one in grade 9. I wasn't on any of the ones for my program. And so towards the end of first year, I started joining them and I realized, oh my god, people are helping each other. In the Discord for my program, people send in questions, like practice questions, to say, hey, does anyone know why the answer is this? I didn't understand. And then other people respond with answers, and it's so helpful. It's so helpful because first of all, people are always talking about deadlines, so you will never miss another deadline in your life because everyone is talking about it. Second of all, you can ask questions and people will answer, people will help you. And third of all, you can answer questions as well. So sometimes when people post a question, I might not know the answer myself. Then I have to go and look into it and research it. And it's really good for me because then I'm seeing that their question was also something I didn't know. Now I've learned that thing too. So I find joining groups like that really, really helpful. And also when you don't know the answer and you've tried and you've looked for it, someone else can just answer it and you can read their explanation and try to understand off that. And then you can ask them. If you still don't understand, you can ask that person, can you explain a little bit more? And people are actually so helpful and so much better than you think they would be. I highly recommend joining some sort of group like that to talk to your peers. Keep in mind that studying is a very personal thing, very subjective, and the way that you study might be completely different from the way that I study, the way someone else studies. But another thing, and this might be common sense to some, but I know there are people out there like me, you have to take breaks. I don't like taking breaks because I just feel very anxious. I feel like there's no time and I just want to get everything done. And I don't like to take frequent breaks. Still to this day, I won't take frequent breaks because I think that when you take too many breaks, you're keeping yourself from getting into the flow state. You can't get into the flow state within like 30 minutes. And I know people do Pomodoro with short increments. I use a Pomodoro tracker, but what I do is I don't use the breaks. I just skip forward and I use this to track the amount of hours I'm studying, and I'll show you how that works a little bit later in the video. I try not to take too frequent breaks because that prevents you from getting into the flow state, and when you get into the flow state, it's so nice because you don't even feel like you're working, you're just doing and doing and doing, and your productivity is like the best it's ever been. So I love getting into that state. So the don't here is don't not take breaks, which means take breaks. Don't work for like 8 to 10 hours without any breaks because you will die. You will literally be crashing at the end of the day and your work is not going to be as well done. So now I take breaks when I'm going to eat, or even if I'm just really tired and I'm staring at the screen and I'm like, I cannot do this anymore. Usually I would just power through that and just keep going, but that just makes you work a lot slower. You're just going to keep working slower and slower, and those hours you're working are not going to be as efficient as if you just took a 5-minute break and then came back to it. Another thing that you should not do when studying in university is to compare yourself with where other people are. This is something I did a lot, and this is something that stressed me out like nobody's business, which was asking my friends, which lecture are you on? Which chapter are you on? Which unit are you on? Everyone loves to talk about this because either someone will say they're behind or that they're on the same level as you and you'll feel better. You'll feel like, okay, I'm not the only one. Or someone will be ahead of you and then it stresses you out and forces you to move forward. This doesn't work for me because I'm a perfectionist. I like to go through concepts very slowly until I understand them, and that's not good. I need to work on that. I need to get through ideas a little bit faster, but I always end up finishing it. Hearing where other people are just stresses me out because I'm always behind. I'm always behind someone else, and it doesn't stress me out in a productive way. It doesn't stress me out and force me to finish it and catch up. It stresses me out to the point where when I'm studying, I can't focus on what I'm doing because I just feel like I'm going so slow and I'm so far behind. So I would highly recommend following your own schedule. Make your own schedule of when you want to do the concepts and follow that. Don't follow other people's schedules. Don't do it because everyone studies differently. Everyone takes a different amount of time to learn things. In the end, you will finish everything as long as you follow your own schedule. You know how much time you need to learn. Oh, another thing I want to add is after you're done an exam, don't talk to people about it. Don't talk to people about what answers they got and try to compare and try to figure out if you did it right. Don't do it. Let it go. It's done. You can't do anything about it. Literally just let that test go. Move on with your life. it's done. You can't go back in that exam room. You can't write it again. You're done. I think that was all for this video. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned some things not to do when you're studying for this next year.